Welcome to Zoe Stories. My girlfriend's mom made me try on a dress. Now I'm her daughter. My name is Daniel Harper. I'm 24 years old, working from home as a software developer. Most days, I sit in front of a dual monitor setup, my fingers dancing across the keyboard while I debug code or build databases for clients I've never met in person. It's a quiet life. Predictable. Safe. But safe doesn't always mean honest. There's a part of me I've never shared with anyone, not even with the person I love most. It lives in silence, in secret, in shame. A part that surfaces late at night, when the apartment is dark and my thoughts grow louder. You see, underneath my bed, hidden beneath a loose floorboard I once discovered while vacuuming, is a locked metal box. Inside are a few things no one would ever expect me to own. A silky blue blouse I bought online, but never wore outside the bedroom. A pair of size 10 patent leather heels that I once stood in for all of 30 seconds before the guilt became too much. A soft, shoulder-length wig still tucked into its original packaging. And a lipstick called Scarlet Temptation, a name that feels ironic every time I look at it. I've never considered myself a crossdresser, not exactly. I'm not even sure what I'd call myself. Curious, maybe. Confused? Sometimes. There's something about women's clothes, the elegance, the vulnerability, the transformation, that draws me in. But I've never dared act on it in front of anyone. It's always been private. My secret. My release. My fear. And then came Emma. Emma is my girlfriend. She's 26, loud in the best way, unapologetically creative, and brimming with charm. She owns her own flower shop, and she somehow makes every room she walks into feel like spring. I met her at a friend's dinner party. I was sitting in a corner, sipping soda water and pretending to check my emails, and she sat beside me without a word. She didn't ask what I did for a living or try to flirt. She just handed me a tiny pink flower she plucked from the centerpiece and said, "This suits you more than it suits this boring table." I was smitten. A year later, we were living together in a one-bedroom apartment just outside the city. Our place was decorated mostly by Emma, soft pink throws, vintage lamps, walls full of art prints, and vases of flowers in every corner. I added little to the decor. My contributions were a bookshelf of sci-fi novels and a dusty guitar I hadn't touched in months. Living with her has been like breathing fresh air. But still, I've kept my secret buried. She doesn't know about the metal box. She doesn't know about my late-night online searches or the YouTube channels I follow when she's asleep. I keep that part of myself tightly locked away because I'm afraid. I don't know how she'd react. I don't even know what I would say if she asked me why. And then, one weekend in late spring, her mother came to visit. Isabella. The name alone makes people stand straighter. Isabella is 51, a former model-turned-fashion consultant who splits her time between Europe and New York. She's the kind of woman who commands attention without speaking. Tall, poised, with sharp green eyes and lips that never seem to smudge. She doesn't walk, she glides. And when she speaks, her voice is low and deliberate, like every word is selected with care. Emma had warned me. "She's intense," she said while packing her suitcase. "But she means well. She's just not great with emotions. Or people." That weekend, Emma was supposed to leave early for a wedding set up 2 hours away, and Isabella was arriving a day early to help prep the flower arrangements. But plans changed. Emma's business partner called in a panic, needing her urgently at the venue. So she left Friday morning, promising to be back Sunday night, which meant I was going to be alone with her mother for 2 days. The first few hours were manageable. Isabella arrived with 2 designer suitcases, wearing sunglasses indoors and perfume that filled the hallway like smoke. She nodded when she saw me, offered a stiff smile, and handed me a bottle of wine as if it were a peace offering. We talked briefly, small talk mostly. She asked about my job, my family, my background. Her tone was polite, but there was an edge to it, like she was studying me for flaws. She walked through the apartment like she was inspecting a hotel suite, her heels clicking against the hardwood floors. She didn't say anything directly, but I could tell she found the place lacking. She frowned at the dust on the bookshelf, pinched a cushion and muttered, "Flat," under her breath. She said nothing about the flowers Emma had left in a vase on the table. Maybe she thought they were arranged poorly. Maybe she didn't care. By Saturday morning, we had settled into a strange rhythm. She spent most of her time on her laptop, making calls, reviewing fabric samples, and scrolling through photos of models. I stayed in the kitchen, cooking simple meals and trying to stay out of her way. Until that moment in the living room. She entered quietly, holding a flowing emerald green dress on a padded hanger. It shimmered slightly in the morning light, the fabric catching every color around it. She held it up and looked at me with a strange expression. "You're about the same size as one of my assistants in Milan," she said casually. "I need to pin this at the waist before a shoot next week. Would you mind helping me?" I blinked. "Helping you, how?" She tilted her head, her eyes narrowing slightly. "Just try it on for a moment. It'll be easier than using a mannequin." I should have said no. I should have laughed, made a joke, excused myself, done anything other than what I did. But something inside me cracked open. The part I'd kept hidden for so long. The part that wanted to feel that fabric against my skin. The part that wanted to know what it felt like to become someone else, if only for a moment. So I nodded. And that one nod, simple, silent, dangerous, set everything in motion. The moment I nodded, Isabella gave a smile. Barely there, more in her eyes than on her lips. She turned and left the room without saying another word, the emerald dress still in her hand. I stood in the middle of the living room, my heart thudding as if I'd agreed to commit some kind of crime. I could have backed out. I should have. But I didn't. She returned a moment later with a garment bag. "Try it in Emma's room," she said, casually setting it on the bed. "The light's better in there." I followed her silently. Every step felt heavier than the last. My palms were sweaty. I couldn't tell if I was nervous or excited. Probably both. She opened the bag and pulled the dress out carefully, laying it across the bed like a piece of fine china. The fabric shimmered in the sunlight, catching gold and green undertones as it moved. It was sleeveless, with a delicate satin neckline and a slit that ran teasingly up the side. It didn't look like something a man could wear, not without irony or humiliation. But God, I wanted to feel it against me. "You'll need to undress," Isabella said, her voice calm but expectant. "You can wear Emma's shapewear if you're uncomfortable." That was the moment I realized something terrifying. She wasn't shocked, or even curious. She was calm, in control. She wasn't just asking me for a favor. She was testing me. I swallowed hard. All right." She stepped back, giving me space. "I'll wait outside. Let me know when you're ready." I stripped slowly, each motion feeling unreal. I tried not to think about what I was doing, just went through the motions like I was watching someone else do it. I pulled on the snug, nude-colored shapewear from Emma's drawer. It compressed my chest and flattened my shape in a way I hadn't expected. Already I looked different. Thinner. Less male. Then came the dress. It took me a moment to pull it over my head and adjust it across my body. The satin hugged my sides, the slit exposing part of my thigh. The neckline framed my collarbones in a way that made me look softer, more elegant. I wasn't wearing a wig or makeup yet, but still, I didn't recognize myself. I looked in a mirror and froze. I didn't look ridiculous. I looked beautiful. My breath caught. There was something raw and vulnerable about the image in front of me. I should have been embarrassed. I should have wanted to rip it off. But instead, I felt something else rising in my chest. Wonder. A strange sense of rightness. Like I was finally seeing something I had always known, but never accepted. "Ready?" Isabella called from the hallway. I hesitated.
"Yeah."
She entered, took one long look, and crossed her arms. Her expression was unreadable, calculating, maybe. Or curious. "I thought so," she said quietly. I frowned. "Thought what?" "That this would suit you." She circled me slowly, inspecting every inch of the dress and how it sat on my frame. "You carry it well. Elegant posture. Soft features. Feminine lines."
I didn't know what to say.
She adjusted the shoulder strap and smoothed a wrinkle along the back. Then, casually, she asked, "Have you done this before?" The question hit me like a bolt of lightning. My body stiffened. What? She met my eyes in the mirror. "You've worn women's clothing before. I can tell." I wanted to deny it, laugh it off, make a joke and run. But I didn't. I nodded. "Barely." "Good," she said softly. "Then this won't feel so unfamiliar." She walked over to Emma's vanity and opened the drawers. Pulling out brushes, palettes, and lipsticks, she laid them out like surgical instruments. "Let's see what we can do with your face." My heart stopped. "What? You want to complete the look, don't you?" she asked, turning to face me. "Or do you prefer half measures?" I stood frozen in the middle of the room. I hadn't expected this. Not makeup. Not full-on transformation. And yet, I didn't move. I didn't say no. "Sit," she said, patting the chair. And I obeyed. The moment I sat down at Emma's vanity, the line between fear and desire blurred. Isabella pulled my hair back into a soft clip and began applying foundation. Her hands were steady, professional. She dabbed and blended, brushed and shaded. Her fingers moved with precision, and not once did she hesitate or ask if I was comfortable. It was like she already knew I'd surrender. "Keep your chin up," she said, tilting my face. She moved to eyeshadow, smoky brown with gold flecks. Then eyeliner, a soft flick that made my eyes look larger. Feminine. She applied mascara with a quiet sort of authority, as if this was her world, and I was merely a canvas. When she finished, she leaned back and studied her work. Then she reached for the lipstick. Scarlet Temptation. The very same color I'd hidden in the metal box beneath my bed. I stared at the label, frozen. How would you have that?" I whispered. Isabella's eyes didn't leave mine. "Emma told me she found it once. In your drawer. Said she thought it might have belonged to an ex-girlfriend." My blood ran cold. "She gave it to me," Isabella continued. "Didn't even question it. She uncapped the tube. Pity she didn't ask. But I'm glad she didn't. Because I get to see what it was really meant for." The lipstick touched my lips. Soft. Cool. Heavy with implication. She leaned in, her voice a whisper. "There. Now look." I turned to the mirror and gasped. The person staring back wasn't Daniel. She wasn't even someone I recognized. She was beautiful. Feminine. Like a dream made real. My cheekbones were sharper. My eyes more alive. The dress clung in all the right places. I looked like someone who belonged in Isabella's world. In Emma's world. I looked like her daughter. I couldn't stop staring at myself. The girl in the mirror wasn't just a reflection. She was a possibility. A vision I had always pushed away, buried under guilt and denial. But now, here she was. Breathing. Blinking. Beautiful. And horrifying. Because this wasn't supposed to happen. Not like this. Not with Emma's mother standing behind me like some sort of fashion sorceress, watching her creation come alive. "How do you feel?" Isabella asked, folding her arms. She didn't smile. She didn't frown. She studied me like an unfinished painting. I hesitated. "I don't know." She tilted her head. "That's not true." And she was right. I did know. I felt alive. Terrified. Exposed. Beautiful. Ashamed. Powerful. Small. All of it tangled together in a knot I couldn't undo. She stepped closer, adjusting a loose strand of the wig she'd just finished pinning. "You don't need to hide this part of yourself. Not here. Not with me." That shocked me more than anything. "What are you talking about?" "I've seen men like you before," she said matter-of-factly. "In the industry. Designers. Models. Clients. Men who wore masks by day and makeup by night. I never judged them. Some of the most confident women I know were born in bodies that never fit." "I'm not," I started, but the words got caught in my throat. I didn't even know what I was trying to say. "You don't have to label it," she said gently. "You only have to decide if it makes you feel like more or less." She walked away, giving me space again. My head spun. Was this really happening? How had this escalated from a quick dress fitting to a full transformation in under an hour? Then my phone buzzed.
Emma.
My stomach dropped. I grabbed the phone, hands trembling. The text read, "Hey babe, venue stuff went faster than expected. Heading back tonight instead of tomorrow. Probably home by 9. Love you." I checked the time. 7:43 p.m. Panic punched me in the chest. "I have to change," I blurted out, spinning in the chair. "She's coming back tonight. I can't let her see me like this." Isabella didn't even flinch. "Why not?" "What do you mean, why not?" I said, louder than I intended. "She's my girlfriend." "Yes," she said, calm as ever. "And she clearly doesn't know you."
Not all of you.
I stood, nearly tripping on the dress. "You don't understand. If she walks in and sees me like this, she'll leave me." Isabella approached slowly, her eyes sharp. "Or maybe she'll finally see you. The real you." I shook my head.
No.
"You don't know Emma." "Don't I?"
She said.
I raised her. And I know she doesn't fall in love with people who live small, scared lives. That stung. But I didn't have time to argue. I darted into the hallway, heading toward our bedroom. I yanked open the closet door, nearly tripping again, and looked for my clothes. But my outfit, my jeans, my t-shirt, everything was gone. "What the hell?" "Laundry," Isabella said behind me. "I took it all earlier." "You spilled something on your shirt, remember?" "I did. A drop of wine at lunch. I put it in the wash. It's not dry yet." Of course. Of course it wasn't. "Here," she said, holding out a coat. Long black. Elegant. "This will cover the dress. You can wear flats and take off the wig if it makes you feel safer." I stared at it. "You want me to pretend this didn't happen?" "No," she said softly. "I want you to decide what this means for you. If you take off the dress because you're scared, fine. But don't do it just to keep living in a version of yourself you hate." I didn't hate myself. Did I? I turned toward the mirror again. The makeup.
The dress.
The shape of my silhouette. My eyes shimmered beneath the lashes. My lips, that deep red, looked daring. Feminine. The girl in the mirror looked alive in a way Daniel never had. I whispered, "What am I doing?" Isabella stepped beside me, her voice suddenly soft, maternal. "You're trying to breathe." And then, the sound of a key turning in the front door. We both froze. I turned toward her, eyes wide. "She's early." Isabella didn't move. "You have two choices. Run and hide or face it." I looked down at myself. Heels still on, lipstick perfect, the scent of Emma's floral perfume from the vanity now clinging to my skin. There was no time to scrub off the makeup. No time to change. No time to run. The door opened. Emma's voice rang out cheerfully. "Hey, Mom? Danny? I brought cupcakes from." And then silence. She stepped into the hallway.
And saw me. Me.
In her dress. Her makeup. Her mother standing beside me like a sculptor admiring her latest work. Her eyes went wide. She dropped the cupcake box. The cupcake box hit the floor with a soft thud, little frosted swirls smashing sideways into the tile. But neither of us looked down. We were locked in a moment so tense, I could feel the blood draining from my face. Emma's eyes flicked between me and her mother. Her mouth opened, then closed. She blinked, but didn't speak. I tried. "Emma, Is this some kind of joke?" she asked, her voice a brittle whisper.
No.
"No, I swear." I stammered. "It's not what it looks like." She raised a hand. Don't say that." "Because it looks exactly like what it looks like." Her eyes finally landed on me. Really landed on me, and I watched her expression shift from confusion to disbelief to hurt. I felt like I was crumbling under her gaze. "I didn't mean for you to see me like this," I said quietly. "This just happened." Emma turned sharply toward her mother. "You did this." Isabella, calm as ever, met her daughter's eyes without a hint of shame. He agreed. Emma's jaw clenched. "Mom, what the hell were you thinking?" "I was thinking," Isabella said coolly, that your boyfriend has been hiding a piece of himself out of fear. And maybe it was time he saw what it felt like to live, just for 1 minute, without shame. Emma looked like she'd been slapped. You think this is helping? Look at him, Emma, her mother said. Really look. Have you ever seen him this alive? Emma's lips parted to say something, but she paused. And for just a second, she did look at me. I stood frozen in her dress, in her makeup, my heart pounding against my ribs like it wanted out. But in that moment, I saw her eyes soften, just a fraction. It wasn't understanding, not yet, but something else. Recognition, maybe? She turned away. I need air, she muttered, then walked down the hall, disappearing into the bedroom and slamming the door behind her. The silence that followed was deafening. I slowly turned to Isabella. Why did you do that? Her voice was gentle. Because I've met too many people who wait their whole lives to be themselves and never do. But I didn't ask for this. No, she said. But you didn't say no either. That stung. I sank into the nearest chair, hands trembling. She's going to leave me. Isabella didn't answer. Because maybe she didn't know. I sat there for what felt like hours, still in full makeup, the dress clinging to my skin like a second identity I hadn't earned. The clock ticked on the wall. My reflection stared back at me from the mirror on the opposite side of the room. Still that girl. Still not Daniel. I hated how beautiful she looked. Because it made everything worse. It meant there was truth here. A truth I'd hidden. A truth I'd been afraid of my whole life. What if this was who I really was? What if I couldn't go back? What if I didn't want to? Finally, I changed out of the dress. Slowly. Carefully. Like I was peeling off a layer of skin. I wiped off the lipstick, smudged the eyeliner with shaking fingers. Removed the wig. Put everything back where it belonged. By the time I stood in the mirror again, Daniel had returned. But he looked hollow. I knocked gently on the bedroom door. No response. Emma? I asked, my voice barely audible. The door opened slowly. She stood there in an oversized hoodie, her eyes red. She'd been crying. I hated myself for making her cry. I'm sorry, I said instantly. She didn't move. How long? I don't know. I mean, a while. But I never really did it. Just thought about it. A lot. She sat on the bed, wrapping her arms around her knees. You never told me. I was scared. Of me. No, I said, shaking my head. Of losing you. That seemed to land somewhere deep inside her. She looked up. Why didn't you tell me you felt this way? Because I didn't know what this way was, I said. I still don't. All I know is when I looked in that mirror tonight, I saw someone I didn't recognize. But I also saw someone I didn't want to let go of. She exhaled shakily. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything right now. A long pause. Finally, she said, You looked happy. I looked down. Did that bother you? She didn't answer right away. I think what bothered me, she said slowly, is that you felt you had to hide from me. That you didn't trust me with you. I nodded, tears burning behind my eyes. I'm sorry. Then came the twist I didn't expect. I always wondered, she said. There were signs. The way you looked at my clothes sometimes. How you hesitated when I talked about gender roles. But I never asked because I didn't want to embarrass you. Or maybe I didn't want to open a door I didn't know how to walk through. I sat beside her. I don't even know what's on the other side of that door. Well, she said with a sad smile. Now it's open. The next morning, I woke up feeling hollow. Emma had fallen asleep beside me, fully clothed, curled up like she was protecting herself from the world. We hadn't said much after our conversation. No decisions were made. No promises. Just silence and exhaustion. I kept thinking about what she said. Now it's open. But what did that mean? What was I supposed to do with the door wide open and no map to follow? I made coffee in the kitchen and stood barefoot on the cool tile, staring at the city beyond the window. Rain had started to fall, soft, rhythmic, and oddly calming. Then Isabella appeared in the doorway, dressed immaculately in white slacks and a blazer, holding a cup of herbal tea like she was about to walk into a Vogue interview. She gave me a long look, then said, "Are you ready?" "For what?" I asked warily. She placed the tea on the table. "To step into who you are." I frowned. "I don't even know who that is." She smiled. "Then let's find out." She walked past me, heels clicking on the tile, and gestured toward Emma's room. "There's an event tonight," she said. "A small industry mixer at a private studio. Fashion designers, makeup artists, boutique owners. I was going to take Emma, but I think you should come." "As her?" I blinked. "As her what?" "As my daughter." I laughed, half panicked.
No.
"Absolutely not. That's insane." Isabella didn't flinch.
Why?
"Because I'm not a girl. I'm not your daughter. I'm not even." "You're not what?" she asked sharply. "Not brave enough? Not curious enough? Not worthy?" That silenced me. She walked back over and gently placed a hand on my shoulder. "You wore that dress better than anyone I've ever fitted. You moved like someone who belonged in it. You looked in the mirror like someone aching to believe it was real. Don't you want to see who that version of you really is?" My chest tightened.
Yes. No.
"I didn't know," Isabella continued. "No one at this party will know you as Daniel. No one will laugh. No one will expect anything of you, except to be poised, polite, and confident. That's a lot to ask. It's what you've already done. You just didn't do it in public." I looked toward the hallway. Emma would never agree to this. "Emma already did," Isabella said coolly. My eyes snapped to hers. "What?" "I told her this morning. She's the one who picked the outfit." I froze. "She's not ready to talk yet," Isabella added. "But she said, if he's going to try, he might as well do it all the way." That single sentence shattered something inside me and stitched something else together in its place. That evening, I stood in front of Emma's full-length mirror again. But this time it was different. This wasn't a stolen moment. This wasn't a secret indulgence. This was a decision. The outfit Emma picked wasn't overly flashy, but it was intentional. A flowy rose-colored blouse tucked into a high-waisted black skirt, nude tights, and low nude heels.
Soft.
Feminine.
Subtle.
Dignified. Isabella helped with my makeup, but this time, I asked for it. She shaped my eyebrows with pencil and confidence, gave me a soft blush, and painted my lips in a gentle mauve tone that didn't scream for attention, but didn't hide, either. The wig was new, shoulder-length, rich brown, with soft layers that framed my face in a shockingly flattering way. Isabella styled it effortlessly while humming under her breath. When I looked in the mirror this time, I didn't see Daniel in disguise. I saw a woman trying to be brave. I saw someone who had never existed until now. And I liked her. I really, really liked her. The ride to the studio was quiet. My hands trembled slightly in my lap, but I kept them clasped to hide it. Isabella was calm, as always, scrolling through her phone and occasionally offering soft bits of encouragement. "You don't have to speak unless you want to," she said. "You don't even need to tell anyone your real name. Just observe.
Feel.
Let the room see her." "Her?" I asked quietly. "The girl you've been hiding." The venue was tucked in a quiet downtown block. Exposed brick, candlelight glow, faint jazz music playing inside. People were sipping champagne, laughing, gliding through the room in outfits that cost more than my entire wardrobe. I hesitated at the door. "Breathe," Isabella whispered. "You've already stepped through the door. Now walk in." As we entered, no one stared. No one laughed. No one pointed. People smiled. One woman complimented my blouse. A tall man with glittering nail polish offered me champagne and said he loved my energy. For the first 10 minutes, I didn't speak. I just listened, nodded, let Isabella do the talking. But then something shifted. I laughed at a joke someone made. Asked where someone had bought their earrings. I touched my hair. I let myself exist. I let her, this version of me, exist. And she didn't fall apart. She bloomed. Toward the end of the night, Isabella took a call and stepped outside. I stood by a painting near the back wall, sipping mineral water and wondering what the hell my life had become. And then I saw her.
Emma.
standing by the door, in jeans and a leather jacket, hair tied back. No makeup, just her.
Raw. Real.
She met my eyes. I froze. She walked toward me, slowly, quietly. When she stopped in front of me, her expression was unreadable. "You look different," she said softly. I nodded. "So do you." She gave a small smile. "Is this who you are?" I swallowed. "I don't know yet. But maybe. Maybe it's who I've always been underneath." Emma stared at me for a long time. "She's beautiful." I blinked. "You think so?" She stepped closer. "I think I'm meeting someone I should have met a long time ago." My throat tightened. "Are you okay?" "I'm not sure," she admitted. "But I'm here. And I'm trying." I nodded. "So am I." She reached out and took my hand. Emma's hand in mine felt unfamiliar. Not because I hadn't held her hand 100 times before, but because now, for the first time, she wasn't holding Daniel's. She was holding her.
Me.
Whoever she was becoming. We stood quietly in the corner of the venue, the music soft around us, strangers swirling in conversation like we were standing inside a bubble. I could barely breathe, but I didn't want to let go of her hand. "I don't know how to do this," I said softly. "I don't know what I am, or what this means, or where it's going." Emma looked at me with a complexity I couldn't describe. "That makes two of us." There wasn't anger in her eyes anymore. But there wasn't peace either. Just confusion.
And care.
Maybe that was enough for now. We were about to slip quietly out of the event when Isabella reappeared. She was glowing. "There's someone I want you to meet," she said, gently guiding me across the room. I tried to pull back, but she stopped me. "You've made it this far. One more step." We stopped in front of a sharply dressed woman in her 40s, clipboard in hand, with striking cheekbones and a black bob haircut. "This is Maris," Isabella said. "She scouts new talent for indie runway shows." I froze. "Hi," Maris said, giving me a quick once-over. "You're stunning. Natural posture. Great lines. Lovely coloring. Who are you?" I hesitated. Then, almost without thinking, I replied. "I'm Danny. Not Daniel. Just Danny." A single letter. But it felt like crossing a canyon. "Well, Danny," Maris said, "if you ever want to walk, call me. We're always looking for fresh faces with elegance." I tried to smile, but it faltered. Because behind her, I saw someone else. Someone familiar. It was Max. From work. My boss's son. We'd spoken maybe 3 times in person. Casual. Friendly. But unmistakably connected to the very job I'd built my entire life around. And he was staring right at me. Our eyes locked. He squinted. Recognition flashed. Oh God. I panicked.
Turned.
Grabbed Emma's hand and whispered, "We have to leave."
Now.
But as I turned to rush out, heels clicking faster than they were meant to, a heel caught on the edge of the carpet. I stumbled.
Hard.
One arm flailed. My wig shifted slightly. A few gasps rang out from behind me. Emma caught me by the arm before I fell, but the damage was done. I stood upright, breath heaving, heart thundering in my ears. Eyes were on me. Max was still watching, closer now, tilting his head. I didn't know if he'd recognized me. But the fear took over. I was being seen. Not just noticed. Seen.
Danny.
Daniel. The blur between them. It felt like every secret I'd ever buried was breaking through the surface at once. Emma pulled me into the hallway and out the back exit. The cold air hit us like a slap. I leaned against the wall, hyperventilating. Emma rubbed my arms.
Breathe.
Just breathe. "I messed everything up," I choked out. He saw me. Everyone. "No one knows anything," she said. "Even if they suspect, they don't know." "But what if he tells my boss? What if it gets around? What if?" "Then you deal with it," she said, gripping my hands. "You deal with it like anyone brave enough to show up like you did tonight." "I'm not brave." She smiled, eyes glossy. "Then you faked it perfectly." Back at home, after a long silent cab ride, I kicked off the heels and finally looked at the mirror again. The wig was tilted. My lipstick was slightly faded. A run had formed in my tights. I looked imperfect, but more real than I ever had. On the vanity sat the lipstick again, Scarlet Temptation, like it was waiting for a choice. I picked it up,
Paused.
then set it down. Not because I was ashamed, but because I didn't need it right now. I changed into soft pajamas, neutral but loose-fitting, unfamiliar but freeing. When I stepped into the living room, Emma was waiting on the couch, wrapped in a blanket. She didn't look up as I sat down beside her. "I think you were brave," she whispered. "I think I need time, but I also think I'm not going anywhere." Tears welled in my eyes. "You're sure?" She reached under the blanket and took my hand.
No.
"But I want to be." And for now, that was enough. 3 days passed. Emma kept her word. She didn't leave. But she didn't say much either. We moved like two people tiptoeing through a cracked mirror. Gentle, careful, pretending the world hadn't shifted beneath our feet. I tried to fall back into my routine: jeans, neutral shirts, no makeup.
But something had changed.
When I looked in the mirror, I didn't see Daniel anymore. I saw someone trying to pretend he'd never met Danny. But Danny didn't want to disappear. And I didn't want to let her go. On Friday, I returned to the office. The building was its usual sterile self: buzzing fluorescents, humming printers, people pretending to be too busy for anything human. I kept my head down. I answered emails. I drank my burnt coffee. And then I got a message on Slack. "Meet me in the stairwell.
Now.
Max L." My heart stopped. I stared at the message for a full 30 seconds, then stood
And walked.
Max was already there when I pushed open the heavy stairwell door, leaning against the railing, looking too casual,
Too calm.
His eyes landed on me instantly. "Took you long enough," he said. I swallowed hard. "What's this about?" He raised an eyebrow. "You tell me, Danny." My stomach dropped. He knew. No maybe. No guessing. "No, I think I saw someone who looked like you." He knew. I tried to play dumb. "What are you talking about?"
He pulled out his phone.
Opened a photo.
Me. At the party.
In the rose blouse. Makeup perfect. A drink in hand. His voice was smooth. "I was going through pics for the venue's online gallery. Saw your pretty face in a few frames. Took me a second, but I'm good with faces." I said nothing. There was nothing I could say. Max tilted his head. "Relax. I'm not going to tell anyone." I let out a shaky breath. "Too soon. If," he added, "you do something for me." My eyes narrowed. "What?" His smirk grew. "There's a charity gala next weekend. Black tie. My date canceled. My dad wants me to make connections. Look respectable. You want me to go?" "Oh no," he said. "I want her to go. The girl I saw in the pictures. Danny." I stared at him. "You're blackmailing me into being your date?" He leaned closer. "I'm giving you a choice.
Come with me.
Look stunning. Smile. No one will ever know. Or," he dangled his phone. I hit send. "And your boss, your clients, your coworkers all find out what you were doing in heels and lipstick last weekend." My throat burned. He was enjoying this. And worst of all, some part of me wasn't entirely horrified by the idea of going. Some part of me wanted to feel beautiful again. But not like this. Not with him holding the leash. I left without agreeing. My head spun the entire walk back to my desk. But the seed was planted. Max now had control of my secret. Unless I did something about it. That night, I told Emma everything. She stared at me like she didn't know whether to scream or cry. "He blackmailed you? Threatened to expose me unless I showed up at the gala as his date." Her jaw clenched. "That piece of..." I grabbed her hand. "What do I do?" Emma stood, pacing, thinking. Then she turned to me, fire in her eyes. "You go." I blinked. "What?" "You go," she repeated. "But not for him. For you. We make you so stunning, so confident, that you control the room. Not him. That won't stop him from sending the photos." She cut me off. Then we make it so that if he does, it won't matter. You won't be scared anymore. I stared at her. You want me to come out? She sat beside me. I want you to stop running. 2 days before the gala, Isabella brought over a garment bag. I designed this for a model who canceled last minute, she said. Now I think it was meant for you. Inside was a deep burgundy gown, off-shoulder, floor-length, with a slit up the thigh and subtle gold accents across the bodice. It shimmered like wine under candlelight. I touched it with reverence. It's beautiful. Isabella smiled. So are you. The night of the gala arrived. I sat before the mirror again. This time, everything was my choice. The makeup, the shoes, the jewelry, the name.
Danny.
Not a disguise. Not a mask. A decision. Emma stood behind me as I adjusted the necklace. You ready? She whispered. I met her eyes in the mirror.
No.
But I'm going anyway. The gala was held at a private rooftop ballroom overlooking the city skyline. Spotlights danced on polished windows. Laughter spilled out from behind velvet curtains. Music thumped gently through the air like a heartbeat, steady, constant, unforgiving. And I was standing at the top of the staircase, heart pounding, heels clicking softly against the marble floor. The burgundy gown shimmered under the chandelier lights like wine catching fire. I wasn't Daniel. I wasn't pretending. I was Danny. And I was terrified. Beside me, Isabella adjusted the sheer shawl across my shoulders. Deep breath, she whispered. Head high, shoulders soft. Emma stood behind us, disguised in a sleek black cocktail dress and a simple updo. She wasn't there to make a scene. She was there in case everything exploded. She was my anchor. I don't want to do this, I whispered. Yes, you do, Isabella said gently. You just wish it didn't matter this much. And then she nodded toward the grand staircase. Time to go. I took the first step down the stairs. The crowd was already buzzing, swirling with clinking glasses and soft music, but something shifted the moment I appeared. People turned. Eyes tracked my descent. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't invisible. I wasn't hiding. I was being seen. And I didn't fall apart. I reached the bottom of the stairs, and there he was.
Max.
In a fitted tuxedo, leaning casually near the bar. The moment he saw me, his eyes widened, just slightly, then narrowed. He hadn't expected this. He expected shame. He expected nerves. He expected someone desperate. What he saw was a woman in full command of herself. His smirk faltered for a fraction of a second. Then he walked over. Danny, he said smoothly, offering his arm. You clean up nice. I smiled, small and controlled. So do you. Shame about the attitude. He chuckled. Feisty. I like it. We moved toward the main ballroom, weaving through champagne trays and glittering gowns. People nodded at us. A few whispered. Some smiled. I couldn't tell if they saw a woman or a man in drag. I didn't care anymore. I had no room left for fear. Not tonight. Max leaned close as we reached the center of the floor. You're playing this well. I'm not playing, I said. Oh, come on. You think they wouldn't all freak out if they knew? Then show them, I said, turning to face him fully. Send the photo. Do it. Right now. He blinked. What? I held his gaze. Do it. He faltered. You're bluffing.
No.
I'm done being afraid of you. For a beat, Max was speechless. He glanced around, unsure of who was watching. And I realized something. He liked the power more than the truth. He never actually wanted to expose me. He just wanted control. Now he had none. I stepped away from him. Emma appeared beside me, silently taking my hand like it had always belonged there. Nice save, she whispered. I feel like I'm going to throw up. You're glowing. But then, something shifted in the room. A whisper. A movement. Not from Max. From the corner. A man with salt and pepper hair and a voice like velvet spoke loud enough for us to hear. I didn't know Isabella had 2 daughters. The words were smooth but intentional. People turned. Max's head snapped toward the man.
So did mine.
Isabella appeared almost instantly, placing herself between us and the source. "That's enough, Dorian," she said, cool as ice. "Oh, come on," he chuckled. "We're all friends here." But the room was already listening. Too closely. A glass shattered near the bar. Someone laughed nervously. Others looked away, unsure what was happening. Emma's grip on my hand tightened. "We should go." But I didn't move. Not this time. If I ran now, I'd never stop running. I stepped forward, gently removing the shawl from my shoulders. All eyes on me now. Every breath I took felt like it echoed in the silence. I looked at Dorian, and I smiled. "Isabella doesn't have 2 daughters," I said calmly. "But she helped someone discover who she really was." The room fell into stunned silence. No one moved. Even Max looked like he'd been slapped. Dorian raised an eyebrow. "That's so?" "Yes." And I turned away, walked back to Emma, and whispered, "Let's dance." The music resumed. Emma took my hands and led me to the floor, holding me gently but confidently. "You just came out," she whispered. "I know. How do you feel?" "I don't know." I laughed softly. And then I cried. Because I did know. I felt free. The rest of the gala blurred. Not because it was uneventful, but because adrenaline had hijacked every sense I had. My dress clung tightly with every breath. My feet ached in the heels. My makeup, carefully applied hours ago, was beginning to crack from the pressure. But none of it mattered. Because I had done it. I had stepped into the fire and survived. But the embers weren't done burning. It started small. A whisper here. A sideways glance there. A man complimented my earrings, then paused like he was unsure if it was still polite. A woman offered me her business card, then quickly said, "I love confidence in any form." Then Max returned. His mask was gone. Now he was angry. He pulled me aside near the edge of the bar, lowering his voice but not his tone. "You had one job," he snapped. "Play your part, be pretty, and keep things quiet." I stared at him. "You wanted to parade me around. I gave you the best version of me. You just didn't like that she didn't bow." Max laughed bitterly. "You're not a hero. You're a joke waiting to implode." I smiled. "Then enjoy the show." His eyes darkened. "You've just made enemies you can't afford." "Good," said a voice behind him. Max turned.
"Emma."
And she was done being polite. "You ever threaten her again," Emma said, stepping between us, "and I'll make sure everyone in this building knows what kind of predator you are. I don't care who your father is." Max froze. "Excuse me? You heard me. You don't have power here. Not anymore." Max scoffed and stormed off. I turned to Emma, heart still racing. "Thank you." She smiled. "I'm your girlfriend. It's my job to punch egos." Later that night, Isabella approached me in the quieter corner of the gala, a proud glint in her eye.
"You did well," she said.
I nearly threw up twice.
"Still."
"You held the room." I laughed nervously. "I don't think the room knows what to make of me." "Maybe," she said, "but Maris does." My stomach flipped. "The scout."
"She saw you here."
"Watched your walk. Your posture." "She wants to talk." "About what?"
"About you."
"Modeling. Branding. Walking again, this time for real. A campaign." I blinked. "She wants me to professionally model?" Isabella nodded. "On one condition."
"What?"
"That you do it as Danny. Not as Daniel. Not as an anonymous face. As you." I sat alone on the rooftop terrace, the city stretching endlessly below me. The wind danced in my hair. I could still hear the music inside, still see the sparkle of gowns and champagne and laughter. But out here I was alone. And the question echoed inside me. Was I ready to live like this? Fully? Openly? Visibly? I had just come out in front of strangers. Max couldn't touch me anymore. Emma was still here. Isabella was offering me a future I never imagined. But saying yes meant never going back. It meant letting go of Daniel. Not entirely, but enough. Enough that the world might never see him the same way again. And maybe that was okay. Inside my clutch was the same lipstick Isabella gave me that first night. Scarlet Temptation. I pulled it out, unscrewed the cap, stared at the rich, powerful red. I had been afraid of this color, afraid it meant something I couldn't control. Now I saw it for what it was.
A choice.
A statement.
A dare.
I applied it slowly, boldly, deliberately. I pressed my lips together, and I smiled. The office was colder than usual Monday morning. Or maybe I was just imagining it. I wore Daniel's usual mask, pressed shirt, slacks, polished shoes. My hair was neat, my voice measured, my laptop open, emails unread. But I felt like a ghost, because Danny hadn't stayed behind. She was still in me, alive, restless, and terrified. At 11:14 a.m., I got a text from Emma. Don't panic, but you need to see this. Attached was a link. I hesitated.
Clicked.
It was a TikTok. Title: Power Move or Public Breakdown. Who is SHE? And then the video played. Grainy, but clear.
Me.
Descending the staircase at the gala. The burgundy dress. The poise. The moment. The caption read, Isabella Lang's surprise daughter steals the show last night. Some say she's not who she appears to be. The comments were already spiraling. Trans? Drag? Nah. Too natural. That's a dude from Midtown, I swear. Whoever she is, she's stunning. I'd date her. I stared at the screen. The video had 34,000 views. And counting. By noon, something had shifted in the air around me at work. People smiled, too tightly. My manager, who usually greeted me with a high five, avoided my desk. In the break room, 2 coworkers stopped talking the second I entered. A laugh echoed too loudly behind me. It wasn't just paranoia. I was being watched. I was becoming the story. And Max? Nowhere to be seen. That night, Emma came over with takeout and wet eyes. I knew something was wrong. She sat down at the edge of my bed, holding the carton like it could protect her. I need to say something, she said quietly. I froze. Okay. I'm proud of you, she said first. You were brave. More than I've ever been. But, she looked away. I don't know if I can keep being part of this story. I swallowed hard. You're leaving? I'm not walking away from you. I'm walking away from what I thought this was. I wanted to scream, to beg, to explain. But I didn't. Because I understood. And because I saw it in her eyes. She still loved me. But she didn't know who I was anymore. And that uncertainty terrified her. She kissed my forehead, then walked out. I didn't cry. Not yet. I sat in front of the mirror again. Half made up. Half undone. Like my life. I picked up the lipstick. Stared at it. Then threw it across the room. It hit the wall and shattered. Like a curse breaking. Or a cage. And then, I screamed. A deep, guttural sound I didn't recognize. Because I wasn't Daniel anymore. Not entirely. And I wasn't sure I'd ever be again. The next morning, I left the house with no makeup. No heels. No mask. Just jeans, hoodie, and the tired face of someone who'd lived 1,000 lifetimes in a week. Outside the train station, someone approached me. A woman. Mid-30s. Stylish. Confident. She held up her phone. You're her, right? I froze. Excuse me? She turned the screen around. The video again. That's you. You were stunning. My heart pounded. That was just a party. She nodded slowly. You shouldn't hide. That girl looked like she finally knew who she was. I stared. She smiled, then walked away. And for a moment, I wanted to run after her. Not because I needed her, but because I wanted to thank her. Back at home, I cleaned up the broken lipstick. Found a new one in the drawer, one I had never dared wear. Crimson Pulse. I applied it slowly, deliberately, looked in the mirror, and said, quietly, for the first time, my name is Danny, and I'm not hiding anymore. The following Friday, Isabella texted me one line. Be at Studio 7 at 6 p.m. No backup. Bring Danny. I stared at the message. I hadn't worn a dress in 5 days. I hadn't smiled in 4. I hadn't spoken to Emma since she left. But I was done grieving. It was time to decide. I opened the closet. Daniel's clothes hung like shadows.
Safe.
Familiar. Empty. Then I pushed them aside. In the back, where I'd hidden them before Emma knew, before Isabella dressed me, before I accepted who I was, hung the gown. Not the burgundy one. A new one. Ivory silk. Backless.
Sleek. Pure.
I slipped it on without hesitation. Each sip, each clasp, each brush of fabric felt like sealing a vow. Makeup, soft. Intentional. Hair, loose waves, pinned at the sides. Jewelry, minimal. Shoes. Gold heels I'd once only dreamed of walking in. In the mirror stood Danny.
Whole.
Unapologetic. Unbreakable. Studio 7 was already alive with soft music and warm light when I arrived. Photographers. Designers. Stylists. A pre-show mixer for an elite private runway showcase Isabella was hosting, and I was the surprise model. I stepped in like I belonged. And there, across the room, Max. His smirk dropped the second he saw me. He stormed over. "You really think you've won?" I raised an eyebrow. "Won what?" "This isn't real," he hissed. "This is a costume. A fantasy." I stepped closer.
No.
"That was the fantasy," I whispered. "Thinking you could control me. Thinking your secret gave you power. But the moment you tried to use it, I took it away." He opened his mouth, but I didn't let him speak. "You don't get to define me. Not as a man. Not as a woman. Not as anything." Then I leaned in, voice low. "Be careful, Max. Because from where I'm standing, you're the one hiding now." And I turned my back on him. Isabella waved me over. She looked radiant. "Are you ready?" she asked. I nodded. "What's your name?" she asked one final time, like a ritual. "Danny," I whispered. And she smiled. "Then walk like it's always been yours." The runway was narrow, lined with spotlights. Silence fell as I stepped into the beam. And I walked, one step at a time. Each heel click was a heartbeat. Each sway of my hips was a declaration. The world didn't explode. It didn't collapse. It opened. The crowd watched in stunned silence. Some smiled. Some whispered. Some just stared. But none of it mattered anymore. Because for the first time, I was whole. Backstage, after the walk, Isabella handed me a compact mirror. Inside, a new tube of lipstick. Not scarlet. Not crimson. This one was clear. No color. No disguise.
Just me.
I applied it in silence. And when I looked into the mirror, there was no trace of Daniel. Not because he died, but because he changed. And I finally had the courage to let him. The next morning was quiet. Too quiet. Sunlight poured into my apartment, warm and golden. My phone buzzed with messages, some from strangers, some from friends, some I hadn't spoken to in years. Most were kind, curious. A few were cruel, but I didn't care. I was wrapped in a silk robe, fresh coffee in hand, and no longer hiding. On the counter sat an envelope Isabella had slipped into my purse after the runway. A modeling contract.
Real.
Official. Staring back at me. I hadn't signed it yet, but I knew I would. At 11:02 a.m., my phone buzzed again.
Emma.
I saw the walk. "You are beautiful. Can we talk?" I read the words again and again, pulse racing. For days, I thought she was gone.
Done.
A chapter closed. But here she was, reaching back. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. And just before I could reply, a knock. 3 soft taps at the door. I froze. "Emma?" I padded quietly to the door, heart thudding in my ears. Looked through the peephole. And gasped. It wasn't Emma. It was my father. I hadn't seen him in 2 years. We hadn't spoken since the last family holiday, when he told me I needed to man up and stop embarrassing the family with my fashion choices. And now here he was, standing outside my apartment, in a suit, holding a folded newspaper. The newspaper with my face on it. The headline: Isabella Lang's Mystery Muse, Breaking Gender, Breaking Runways. I staggered back from the door, breathing hard. I hadn't planned for this.
Not yet.
Maybe not ever. He knocked again. Daniel, he called through the door. I think we need to talk. Behind me, my phone buzzed again. Emma, I'm outside your building. 5th floor. Just parked. My chest tightened.
2 people.
2 doors. Both new parts of me. Both had the power to change everything. One I loved. One I feared. And both wanted answers. From Danny. I looked down at my reflection in the glossy coffee table. Lipstick still perfect. Hair curled. Robe elegant. No more masks. No more hiding. Just choice. I stepped forward. Reached for the door.
Paused.
And smiled, softly, but truly. Then placed my hand on the handle. And